We want to welcome all of you with us today. We're all here for the very same reason, and that is to remember our dear brother O.J. Clayton. It's a sad reason that brings us here today, brings us together. And that is because O.J. Clayton died on Wednesday, September 25th, 2019. But remembering O.J. Clayton, thinking about who he was, that is not a sad thing. O.J. was a fearless worker for Jehovah God. He was a tremendous family man. Just to think about him, just to think about his qualities, think about who he was, his works, that's something that warms our hearts. We're going to do that. We're going to think about who he was and what we know about him. I want to begin by just giving you some data, kind of like milestone data about O.J. Clayton. O.J. was born in Bend, Oregon on April 28, 1937. He was preceded in death by his parents, and that's Thomas and Dorothy Clayton, by his brother and his sister, Ralph Clayton and Wanda Vistit. He is survived by his wife, Edith Clayton, his sister, Betty Spink, his children, Wendy Oliver and her husband Craig, Tamara Hackla and her husband Dave, and by his grandchildren, Courtney Oliver, Grant Hackla, Nicholas Oliver, and Les Hackla, and by 5 great-grandchildren. O.J. was baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses on August 3, 1950. That was in New York City, and he was appointed as an elder of Jehovah's Witnesses in 1972. A lot of us, in thinking about O.J., a lot of us connect O.J. with conventions. And that's but yet, rightly so, isn't it? Because he did so much when you think about that, when it came to conventions. You know, if you go back far enough, and a lot of us maybe don't even remember a time when there was food service at convention, he was food service overseer. He served as convention overseer many, many years, convention committee coordinator for years. O.J., in 1985, O.J. was appointed to be a contract representative for the branch. Really what that amounts to is he was there to negotiate for contracts for the venues, like Tucson Convention Center, other venues. He was negotiating for the use of those facilities. He did that work for 30 years, truly involved in conventions. He was also heavily involved in our assembly hall in Casa Grande. He was very much involved in the construction of that assembly hall. He served on the assembly hall committee, handling day-to-day things about that committee. Now, if I were to ask you to just think about, even kind of list the qualities of O.J. Clayton, to think about what type of person he was in his works, you would say it's a long, long list of works, and you would talk about tremendous qualities, just like I asked the family to do that, and we talked about that. And when we talked about his qualities, some of the qualities that stood out are his love for Jehovah, his love for his family, his willingness, his desire to help other people, serve other people, his humility, his patience. And his son-in-law Dave said something to the group that just really stands out to me in his description of O.J. Clayton. He said O.J. was an approachable, do-everything elder. That's right. That says it, doesn't it? An approachable, do-everything elder. And when we had our conversation, they started reminiscing and thinking about life together, life with O.J., and some of the remembrances, some of the stories, they just tell you about what type of person, these qualities that he had. His daughter, Tamara, she remembered a time when they were a family, they were traveling together, it was a vacation. They were leaving one hotel, they were not coming back, they were going to another destination. They got about 25 minutes away from that hotel, and Tamara remembered. Now, she was about 9 years old. She remembered she had left her favorite pillow. It was precious to her. O.J., without hesitation, without complaining or grumbling, turned around to get that pillow. Why? Because he loved that pillow? He loved Tamara. He cared. He was a caring and willing individual, wanting to help. She remembered another time when she was about 14 or 15. And it was a little commotion. It was the middle of the night. There was some commotion. She heard it. She woke up. She got up. She wanted to find out what was going on. What she found out was that O.J. was getting ready to leave. He was dressed. He was about to leave. A family had called them, a family in distress. 3 in the morning, without hesitation, without complaining. Why did they have to call me? He was going, a man willing and desirous of helping others. He was truly a hiding place from the wind, or again, inapproachable, do everything elder. My first impressions of O.J., how I felt, my first impressions have to do with conventions. And have to do with, I thought, what a serious man he is. He was very serious, and that seriousness served conventions and Jehovah's people well. I got to know him better than that. I got to come to see him as complete personality. I felt so welcomed into his family. But thinking about that seriousness side of him and how it served conventions, I want to share something with you that very many would even know about. In all of the conventions that happened at the Tucson Convention Center back into the early 70s, there's been 2 bomb scares, 2 bomb threats there. One of the bomb threats was easily dismissed because it was very well understood that there was nothing to it. There was no merit to it. They understood the parameters of it, where it came from. There was nothing to it. It was dismissed. The second bomb scare resulted in evacuation. O.J.'s seriousness played in very well. You could say he was the face of that evacuation. Now it's different today. Today, if there was to be an evacuation at a convention, it's so well thought out in advance. It's planned. It's written down. There's maps. Every department has been explained about what they need to do. The attendants, every attendant, 250 to 300 at the convention center, they all know what they need to do. It was a little fly by the seat of your pants then. It was not that way. That serious man, O.J., he knew he had to do this. He went behind the platform. He said to the platform overseer, I need a mic on the platform. The platform overseer was his son-in-law, Dave. The drama was going on the platform. You remember that? You know, there used to be live people doing drama. Dave hesitated a little bit. O.J., I need a mic on the platform. No more hesitation. Out goes Dave with the mic. Out comes O.J. He did the impossible. I probably shouldn't say that. Nothing's impossible when it comes to having Jehovah's help. He did the impossible because he had Jehovah's help, because he had Jehovah's Spirit. And the impossible was in the view of the Tucson people, the authorities, the officials. You got 6,000 people or more out of that convention in about 15 minutes or less. He did that, not because he was just serious, because that's certainly a part of it, but his whole personality came into play. He was able to be reassuring. He was calming. He got them out in less than 15 minutes. So that serious side helped. He had other sides too. Just to show you some of the other sides, his grandson, Grant, told me about a time when the whole family was going out to dinner. They're going to Pinnacle Peaks. And Grant, this 6-year-old, he was privileged to wear Papa O.J.'s favorite tie, one of his favorite ties. You know what happens at Pinnacle Peaks. Grant was devastated when that happened. And of course, O.J. calmed him down, said, we did this to you. I usually say he punked Grant. Another one I heard, just to show you the warm side and the way it is, his grandson Les, about 9 years old, felt, I got to run away from home. Many of you felt that in your lives. I got to run away from home. Where did he go? He went to Papa O.J.'s. He went about 200 or 2 football fields away. That's where he had to go. And so that was that. Now, you may have noticed something in your program, and that's where it says that O.J. and Edith were married 63.5 years. You want to know how they met? See, Edith and her sister Beatrice, they had moved from back east to Phoenix, where O.J. lived. Now, her and her sister, young women, they had moved there, and they had a pact. They had an agreement between them. And the agreement was this: if one of them gets asked on a date, the other has to go along. Now, that was an agreement that Mom was fully saying, that's good, you got to do that. So, Ralph, O.J.'s brother, asked Beatrice to go on a date. Edith had to go along. Because Edith had to go along, O.J. had to go along. 63.5 years of marital bliss that began with an unplanned blind date. You know, it's good. It's just really helpful, I think, for us to just think about these things. Just to think of the warm side, maybe even laugh a little bit, because it balances off the grief that we all feel. The grief that the family feels. And you're all here to help the family deal with grief. You're all here to help one another, and it's so good that we do that. And this is part of it, coming together. Other things, too, really help to deal with grieving and sorrowing. And another thing that is the truth, knowing the truth. What is Bible truth? Understanding. For example, what is the truth about death? What is the truth about grieving? Now, grieving under these circumstances is a natural thing. It's a normal emotion. We all do it. We all have it, especially when there's a loss of a loved one. But death is not normal. Death is not natural. It has never been Jehovah God's purpose for mankind to die. In fact, the opposite. It's Jehovah God's purpose to do away with death, to end it. But grieving, that's natural. And the proof of that is in the fact that Jesus Christ, the perfect man, Jesus Christ, grieved. He had sorrow. He wept. The circumstances around that were exactly the loss of a loved one. That is Lazarus. It's good if we look that over. We're going to go to John chapter 11. And we're going to read verses 23 through 26. We see what's happening here. Jesus talking to Lazarus' sister Martha. In verse 23, we're going to read 23 through 26 and then 33 through 35. In 23 it says, Jesus said to her being Martha, he said, "Your brother will rise." Lazarus had died. Martha said to him, "I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who exercises faith in me, even though he dies, will come to life. And everyone who is living and exercises faith in me will never die at all." You believe this? Then notice what happened in verse 33. And all these were around, friends, family, grieving. Verse 33, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping, he groaned within himself and became troubled. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Then it says, Jesus gave way to tears. Jesus knew he was going to resurrect Lazarus. That wasn't the question in his mind. Why did he weep? Why did he have this grief? Because he saw the loved ones grieving. And it touched him. It affected him emotionally. And that's the same with us. When others hurt, we hurt. And we're all hurting at this time because of that. But we're together to do that. We're helping one another. Now, I mentioned that Jesus, he felt this and he was a perfect man. But you know Jehovah God does too. Jehovah God cares about and helps those who are grieving under these circumstances. I'm going to quote to you a Bible verse. This is in the 34th Psalm, verse 18. Now, listen to what it says about Jehovah. It says, Jehovah is close to the brokenhearted. Close to the brokenhearted. It doesn't say he sees the brokenhearted. It doesn't say he knows about them. He's close to them. He's close to every one of us here. He cares about us. So what is he going to do? Because we're brokenhearted. Well, first it says, Jehovah is close to the brokenhearted. Then it says this, he saves those who are crushed in spirit. How does he do that? Well, let us look at what he says, or what it says about him in Psalm 147. Psalm 147, we're going to read the 3rd verse. Psalm 147 and verse 3 says, he heals the brokenhearted. It says he binds up their wounds. So here we are, getting Jehovah's help to deal with the grief. And we're part of it because the brotherhood is here. We're here, as I mentioned, to help one another, help the family in a time of grief, help each other. See, the brotherhood is a provision from Jehovah God. And it's a wonderful provision that we're able to do that. So that helps with this grieving. That is natural. But other things help too. For example, I mentioned Bible truths, truth about death, truth about grieving. Well, the promises of Jehovah are also helpful to us in a time like this. Jehovah God promises many wonderful things, things that O.J. knew, that O.J. had total faith in, and that sustained him in this difficult time. And before we talk, and we're going to talk about a couple of those promises, before we talk about that, let's think about the certainty, how O.J. knew, and the certainty of God's promises, how we know they're certain to happen. Here's a good verse, Isaiah 55. And we're going to read 10 and 11. Isaiah 55, 10 and 11. See the certainty. We're talking about the promises of God before we actually see them. So Isaiah 55, 10. For just as the rain and the snow pour down from heaven, and do not return until they saturate the earth, making it produce and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so my word that goes out of my mouth will be. It will not return to me without results, but it will certainly accomplish whatever is my delight, and it will have sure success in what I send it to do. Do you see the certainty in that? Whatever Jehovah God says will happen, it will happen. So what does Jehovah say will happen? What did O.J. have total faith in as far as Jehovah's promises? Well, here's one. Revelation 21:4. Revelation 21:4. There it says, and he will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will mourning or outcry nor pain be any more. The former things have passed away. That's a promise about a time when death is no more. About a time, and other Bible verses could come into play if we had time to look at them, but those promises come together in understanding a new earth, a new world, a new time when earth is paradisaic, when the heavens are governing over. A new time to be here. Now, O.J. had total faith in that promise. And he knew he would be there. Now, he knew it may be because of the resurrection that he would be there. And that's absolutely how it will be. But he had faith in that, and we can too. Now, how did he and how should we? Well, look with me to John 5. The faith in the resurrection. I'm going to read John 5, 28 and 29. Now, John 5:28 starts out, do not be amazed. But if you glance up to verse 25, it's talking about resurrecting individuals. So in 28, he says, do not be amazed at this. For the hour is coming in which all those in the memorial tombs will hear his voice and come out. Those who did good things to a resurrection of life. He said, don't be amazed at this. Now, by comparison, think why it would be not to be amazed. He resurrected people, Lazarus, others. But don't be amazed at that, because think about what we're going to see. Think about that world that O.J. knew about, that O.J. knew he would be, and we can be. Where people will be in a paradise condition, where we'll let O.J. welcome him back, our loved ones back. That is to be amazed. And that's what we want to think about. So these promises, they help us. They help us with suffering, as we've been talking about. We're helping each other to deal with that. And it's so important that we realize that the grief is not overwhelming. It need not be because of these promises, because of what we know. What is the truth? I think you could liken it to this. It may be like, let's say, someone that you're very, very close to, a family, a loved one, someone you're super close to, is going to go away. But they're going to go away for a long time. And you're going to see them off. But you know they're coming back. Now, you have sadness because they're going, and they're going for a long time. But it's not overwhelming due to the fact that you know they're coming back. And we know that about O.J. Clayton, our dear brother. And so it's so good that we're here for this very reason, with each other, with the Clayton family. It's so good that we're here to do that. Now, there's another reason, too, and I'm just going to touch on this. Another reason why it's so good that we are here together. Because anytime that you come to a situation like this, to a memorial, it's a time when you just have to stop and think about things and think about your life. It's a time when you need to realize there's brevity to life right now. There's uncertainty in life right now. How am I living my life? Let's compare a couple of Bible verses to see what I just said. Ecclesiastes 9:11. Ecclesiastes 9:11. Here's what that says. I have seen something further under the sun, that the swift do not always win the race, nor do the mighty win the battle, nor do the wise always have the food, nor do the intelligent always have the riches, nor do those with knowledge always have success, because time and unexplained events overtake them all. Uncertainties happen in life. And also, let's look at the 90th Psalm, Psalm 90. And see the shortness, the brevity that we know as far as life is today. Psalm 90 and verse 12. There it says in Psalm 90:12, it says, teach us how to count our days. That's really thinking about how we live. But teach us how to count our days, it says, so that we may acquire a heart of wisdom. You know, life is short in today's situation. I mean, we know that creatures in the ocean, there are creatures in the ocean that live over a couple hundred years. There are trees that live thousands of years. So, keeping this in mind, we're together, we're trying to appreciate the warm things and to comfort one another, but keeping in our minds, too, we need to think about how we live our lives. We need to follow O.J.'s example. See, O.J. lived a life of dedication to Jehovah God, a life of service. He was devoted to caring for his family. He did those things. Now, some people, if you talk about people all over the world, they might think about, well, I need to live my life in such a way that I make a mark on society, or I make a name for myself. The Bible says, let's live our life differently. Let's live our lives for God. Matthew 6, just read that final verse. Matthew 6 and verses 19 through 21. Matthew 6, starting in verse 19. Here's what we're told to do. It says, stop storing up for yourselves treasures on the earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. Rather, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And that's exactly what O.J. did. As I said, he lived a life of dedication to Jehovah God. He truly cared for his family. He lived a life that's exemplary for all of us. Well, what about us? What will we do? That's what O.J. would tell us to do, isn't it? To live that life that he did. You know, O.J., he is certain, there is no question, he is certain he is going to be in that world of Revelation 21:4. Without doubt, he will be there. Will we be there? Will we be there to welcome him? Will we be there to welcome other loved ones back? If we follow his example, that is exactly what we will be. That is exactly where we will be. So let's do that. But in the meantime, let's just think about the comfort that we should have. Let's comfort the family. Let's comfort one another. Let's think about O.J., the dear brother. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about who he was, and let us talk about who he will be. We're going to conclude this memorial by singing together a song. Now, if you're using your songbook, the song number is 30. But you also, if you have your program, the song is there. The song that we're going to use in conclusion is entitled, My Father, My God and Friend. Song number 30, as I say, it's Hebrews 6:10. After our song, we're going to have a final prayer by Brother Steve Schwalier. So if you'd like to stand, we'll sing together, My Father, My God and Friend.
And he remembers the
family would like to invite you to stay and enjoy some refreshments afterward.
Jehovah, our Father of tender mercies, compassion, and abounding love, we value and appreciate so much, Father, all the things that you have done, are doing, and will do in the future to make life so very much better than what we see today, Father. And so we pray that your spirit and blessing will be with Edith and the entire family with this terrible loss of a dear man, our brother, husband, father, grandfather, whom we will miss very, very much. But certainly we will never forget OJ and his many fine qualities and all the wonderful things that he has done. We look forward so much to the future when all these problems that we're facing will be a thing of the past. You will eradicate them completely from the earth. And especially, dear Father, how we look forward to the time when dead loved ones, such as OJ, will be brought back to life by means of your Son, Christ Jesus, and we'll be able to live in eternity under paradise conditions as you originally purposed. So please, Father, until that happens, we beg, please, that you will help us to endure, that you will help us to learn as much as possible about you. Our relationship with you will continue to grow and flourish, and that we'll do everything we can to make your heart glad as we behold your day drawing very, very near at hand. So please, Father, hear this prayer. We beg for forgiveness for the many times that we sin and fall short, all the wrong that we do. Please have mercy upon us, Father. We're very sorry for our shortcomings. As we ask this prayer now, certainly through no merit of our own, but we pray through your beloved Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.